Welcome to Tokyosaurus. So what's up in Japan? There's been clones of your name popping up all over the place ever since the movie broke all records and expectations pretty much everywhere it aired. It was a universally loved film, and it didn't matter whether or not you understood Japanese or the specific cultural references behind all the symbolism. It was just a film that everyone could watch and get something out of. Makoto Shinkai himself has said that it's gonna take some time before he releases his next film, so there's quite a bit of space between each of his films, which means there is a hungry audience all over the world for more Shinkai, which is how I believe this next project called Shikioriori was born. A collaboration between Chinese animation studio Haoliners and the Japanese animation studio behind Your Name, Comix Films, comes a new film that is set to come out later this year in 2018 to satisfy that Shinkai thirst, because they know you thirsty for more Shinkai. Now, how do we know they're trying to capitalize on that thirst? One look at the visuals or even the description of the film, Shinkai's signature photographic realism style is plastered all over the art, and even Shinkai's name is mentioned a few times as inspiration from the Chinese director himself. The 3D CG chief of animation for many of Shinkai's films is going to be also directing in this film, so you know they really wanted to have Shinkai's team on board here, and it's pretty much as close as we're going to get to a Shinkai-styled film before Shinkai reveals his next film a few years down the road. And since they're literally the people who worked on Your Name, you can't really say they're copying Shinkai, because technically much of Shinkai's team is probably working on this project as well. Now, this film is a little different than the usual fare. It's an anthology of 3 shorts, first one called Hiramari no Choshoku, which is Sunny Breakfast. Next one is called Chisana Fashion Show, which is a small fashion show. And lastly, Shanghai Koi, which is Shanghai Love. The general theme that ties the 3 of them together is that all 3 of them is going to be set in 3 different Chinese cities, and also each story will focus on either food, clothing, or shelter. Sunny Breakfast will be about food, Chisana Fashion Show will be about clothing, and Shanghai Love will be about shelter. Sunny Breakfast will also be about a young person working in Beijing with their grandmother still in his hometown. Chisana Fashion Show will be about 2 sisters living in Guangzhou. And lastly, Shanghai Koi is a set piece in 90s Shanghai, which is actually a homage to 5 centimeters per second, which inspired the lead director for this project, Li Haoling, who also happens to be the president of Haoliners. So all of these stories are quite ordinary in their nature, but that's part of the beauty of Shinkai's works. He takes the ordinary and reveals a whole different side of it, making even the most mundane scenes or events to be beautiful and meaningful in their own ways. And seeing how the director of this project specifically said 5 centimeters per second was his inspiration, being one of the few Shinkai films that doesn't utilize supernatural elements in the story, his focus is definitely going to be the more human side of things. Now, apparently Shikioriori is already set to debut in the summer this year, so the project is definitely on its finishing touches or even finished at this point. And since the film is broken up into 3 stories, it's not going to be structured to have an overarching epic story like the way Your Name had, but instead will be closer in format to Shinkai's Voices of a Distant Star, but probably 3 of those stacked into one showing. Now, the last film that Comix Films released was actually Your Name in 2016. So 2017 was a year of 0 releases for their studio. But obviously, now that we know that they've been working on this Shikioriori project, and along with the insane earnings for Your Name, you know they're going to take their time to make sure they produce something good to follow up Your Name. Now, if you're looking closely to the visuals, you would definitely notice the amount of details in each shot, just like in Shinkai's movies. Each screenshot could probably work as a standalone photograph. If this work is well received, you can almost bet that Haoliners and Comix will work together again to make a full-length feature film with unlimited budget, because everyone has seen the potential that an animated film can have with Your Name. So think of this as more of a test of the waters for both companies, and also the separate directors doing each short to see who can make the better short and maybe to lead the next big project. How hype is this next project from Your Name's production team look so far to you? Would you watch it? As usual, I left the poll for you guys up there, and also let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a thumbs up before you leave, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications if you want to be updated with the latest that's going on in Japan, and I'll see you guys in the next one.